What aviation safety is to me? Prevention. What I'm taking away from the course? Tragedies that could have been prevented. What safety topic spoke to me the most? Intuition. How will I apply my aviation safety to my career? Communications. So, aviation safety to me. I want you to think about this. If you're sitting in a rocket, which is basically a missile, and just imagine that for a second. Imagine if you know you're going to die and you're sitting in a rocket right here. You're not in control, of course, because you're not the pilot. Even if you are, an airplane is a rocket. 9/11 taught us that. Other tragedies, they've all taught us that throughout the course. And we pursue safety with a passion so that an even greater responsibility than death can be avoided is that you have the responsibility of all the other people in the plane as an aviator. So we have models and methods with proven statistics to show that there's a way to prevent that. I want to be a part of that. I want to stop that. I want to stop any potential tragedy from occurring. Okay? And I believe intuition, the safety topic that spoke to me, somebody with expertise and experience and training, the human error factor, nobody's perfect. So all we can do is use what we've gained from these and all the mistakes that we've made and other people have made. And of course, if I apply what I've learned from that to my communication system and maybe develop a design for one that's even more efficient. I like the acronyms that we've learned throughout the course about safety. They really help you when you're trying to recall them in a stressful situation. Acronyms. Okay, so you can't look these things up on a checklist when the plane's falling from the sky. You've got to use the communications that are concise. All right, I want to learn that language so I'm able. Oh, geez, it's almost different than an English language. When they're saying those things with all their phonetics, whew, I love it. And so on the ground, hey, one thing I'm interested in about prevention, and I noticed this, I've often wondered how the ground and the airspace are connected. When NASA drops its air launch, how does the fisherman know to check for the rocket launch schedule for every fishing ship? When they drop their booster rockets, how does he know? Just like encroachment on, near an airport. And so this is situational awareness, something that you have to be able to use. And I have a model called the singular evaluation approach, which I've studied. And I want to present that to you now. And you can really see how you can wrap your mind around scenarios like this. So let's take all the big data and crunch it. We've got the unconscious mind, which is what's in intuition, and the idea like when the weather forecast says no rain and you bring your umbrella, is that a coincidence or is that intuition? So US soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan actually could look down a street and they could, with almost incredible accuracy, they could predict if there was an IED. All right, the soldiers couldn't explain how it felt cold, how it felt wrong on the street. But these Iraq soldiers had training and experience and expertise. So they were able to do this. Just like when you kind of connect with your children and your subconscious mind it's made of 10 million observations in a situation. The decisions that you make when you're not aware of, those are the ones that you have to focus on. When you have familiarity to a situation over training experiences, then you're able to produce them. So here's another case study about, I took it from a magazine in my paper, about this firefighter who was able to save his colleagues. He was putting out a fire in the kitchen and they retreated to the living room because it wasn't going out. And then the chief suddenly demanded the evacuation of the building. Right afterwards, the floor collapsed because the fire had been in the basement, not in the kitchen, and the basement was right underneath the living room. Now that would not happen to someone who had not experienced that kind of thing before. So a professional pilot requires lots of training for the very same reason. So they have to know what it's like to transport, let's say, a large category airplane as opposed to a small one, and practice those familiarities of emergency situations. So just like a surgeon deals with one life at a time, or a police officer with whether they're going to draw their weapon or not, this situational awareness awareness is critical to their success. So I want to go back to the model over here, the singular evaluation approach. And I just want to demonstrate a scenario where I would use something like this in my communications with a pilot. So this is me, I'm trying to assess, let's call this Sully. From his perspective, I can give him options. So even though I'm not there. Now the situation, plane's engines are out. Too far to land back at the airplane where he took off from. It was stated in the Sully video that on a computer simulation, you cannot know what it's like to have an emergency landing on water. The simulators are not capable of producing all the variables that would occur, the drag of the water, friction, how that would slow the vehicle and change the vectors in three-dimensional collision with the water. So no, you have to resort to optimized decision making. The plan doesn't work in that situation. I can't check the list. What am I going to do? If it's familiar, then I can propose my course of action. Okay, flaps up, boom. The first thing that he did was that he flipped on the APU switch, which allowed the external generator to power the flaps when he was incapable of doing that the last few seconds before the impact occurred. Now, if it works, then obviously you implement the course. If it works, yes, but there could be circumstances such as a loss of life. So it might be for the greater good. Okay. So if you're a pilot taking off at Lakeland, obviously that's not going to happen. But if you're taking off behind a plane that's going up heavy, if the heavy leaps off the runway, you can anticipate immediately that you're going to have a later takeoff. You're going to have to wait. You don't want to deal with that issue. So we have to go through all this decision-making processes as I would apply this in my career with pilot communications. I would have a perspective of where they are. So that's Sully and that's me. And then he would communicate to me. I would be able to allow him to see that I'm ready for everything, I'm prepared for the unexpected, and I won't stick to the model if there's common sense that throws the model out the window. So that's what aviation safety is to me. It's to prevent things from happening, and of course I think all the examples we found, the tragedy with the 4-year-old girl on the plane wreck, she was the only survivor, that's just burned in my mind. And I'll passively and aggressively do everything I can do to make aviation safety the most valuable consideration. And just from what I've demonstrated here, I think the topic that spoke to me the most is just the intuition. It's not one that was evaluated as a core to the curriculum, but it was ingrained in all the activities that we did. And how will I apply aviation safety? To me, I'm going to be a communications personnel, so I'll be able to accurately use all those phonetics. I'll be able to communicate based on all the experiences that was offered to me about what to do in the last few moments, like in this situation where the training didn't prepare you for it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I look forward to working all together locally, but I'm sure we're all well traveled because we love airplanes. So tally ho. Thank you.